Imagine being able to laugh with unbridled joy alongside your grandchildren, to take a long, invigorating walk with dear friends, or to fully immerse yourself in a calming yoga class without the constant, nagging worry of bladder leakage. For a great many women navigating life over the age of 50 and 60, these simple, everyday joys can begin to feel overshadowed by the fear of accidents, a persistent sense of discomfort, or a creeping feeling of losing control over their own bodies. It is so incredibly easy to believe that these problems are simply an inevitable and non-negotiable part of the aging process, something that you just have to quietly and privately accept. But the profound and empowering truth is that your pelvic health is not, and never has to be, out of your hands. With the right knowledge and a consistent approach, you can fundamentally strengthen your pelvic floor, significantly reduce or even eliminate leakage, and feel wonderfully confident in your body once again. Today, I want to share with you the 3 best and most effective exercises that every woman over the age of 50 should be doing to actively protect her pelvic health, to restore her precious freedom, and to regain a powerful sense of control. Hello, my name is Dr. Lily Stone. For more than 3 decades, I have had the immense privilege of caring for women through all of the unique and beautiful stages of their lives, from the often turbulent changes of puberty to the profound transitions of menopause and the many vibrant decades that lie beyond. Over those many years, I have seen just how deeply and inextricably our pelvic health impacts not only our physical well-being, but also our sense of independence, our capacity for intimacy, and our overall quality of life. When your pelvic floor is strong, you are able to move through the world freely and with unwavering confidence. When it is weak, a host of problems such as urinary leakage, pelvic organ prolapse, and even a chronic sense of back discomfort can begin to creep into your daily life. But just as you would diligently repair and reinforce the foundation of a beloved house to keep it standing strong for years to come, you can absolutely strengthen your own pelvic floor at any age with the right kinds of exercises. And the inherent beauty of this approach is that these particular exercises require no fancy or expensive equipment and no intimidating gym memberships. You can begin this transformative journey right where you are, in the comfort and privacy of your own home. Before we dive into the specifics, I want to personally and warmly invite you to subscribe to Elderwear Wellness. This is a special place where women over the age of 50 can come together to learn, to support one another, and to empower each other with trustworthy, evidence-based health advice. Every single week, I share the practical tools and the effective strategies that I have seen work for real women in my own clinical practice. Tools that are designed to help you to age with strength, with clarity, and with unshakable confidence. If you have ever experienced the frustration of leakage, a sense of pelvic discomfort, or even just a simple curiosity about how to best protect your pelvic health, I strongly encourage you to subscribe and to join our wonderful and growing community. And if this particular topic resonates with you on a personal level, I invite you to share your story in the comments section below. You may be very surprised to discover just how many other women are walking on the very same path, and your words could be the very thing that helps them to feel less alone. So, let us now begin with the very foundation of our pelvic health, the magnificent architecture of your pelvic floor. I want you to picture your pelvis as a sturdy and beautifully crafted bowl. At the very bottom of that bowl is an intricate sling, or a supportive hammock of muscles and connective tissue that we refer to as the pelvic floor. This remarkable structure is responsible for supporting your bladder, your uterus, and your bowel, while also being instrumental in helping you to control when you release urine or stool. It is a small but incredibly mighty part of your body, and when it is working well, you will barely even notice that it is there. But over the course of time, due to a variety of factors such as the experience of childbirth, the profound hormonal changes that occur after menopause, many years of heavy lifting, or simply the natural and expected aging process, this essential and supportive hammock can begin to weaken. A weakened pelvic floor means that there is less support for your internal organs, which can lead to a host of problems like urinary leakage, a condition known as pelvic organ prolapse, or a sense of discomfort during your moments of intimacy. The wonderfully good news in all of this is that, just like any other muscle in your body, the pelvic floor can be significantly and effectively strengthened with a regular and a consistent exercise routine. The very first exercise that you absolutely need to know, and the one that I consider to be absolutely and completely essential, is the Kegel exercise. Kegels are wonderfully simple, they are completely discreet, and they are incredibly effective when they are performed in a correct and a proper manner. And yet, a great many women either do not do them at all, or they unknowingly do them in the wrong and in an ineffective way. To be able to identify the right and the proper muscles, I want you to imagine for a moment that you are trying to be able to stop the flow of your urine in the middle of the stream. That gentle and that subtle and that internal lifting sensation that you are able to feel deep inside of you is the feeling of your pelvic floor as it is contracting. Another and a very effective way of being able to think about it is as if you are trying to be able to pick up a small and a delicate and a precious blueberry with your vaginal muscles without you having to squish it. That gentle and that upward lift and that subtle squeeze is the very basis of a proper and an effective Kegel. Once you have been able to identify that particular and that important sensation, you are then able to begin to practice it by contracting the muscles for a period of 3 to 5 seconds, and then by relaxing them for the very same and the very exact amount of a time, and by repeating this particular and this important cycle for a period of 10 times in a row. Over the course of time, you will be able to build up to being able to hold the contraction for a longer and a more sustained period of a time, such as for a period of 8 to 10 seconds, and you will also be able to do more repetitions of the exercise throughout your day. The scientific and the medical research that is behind the effectiveness of the Kegels is incredibly and wonderfully powerful. According to the esteemed Mayo Clinic, the women who are able to practice their Kegels on a daily and on a regular basis will so often be able to see a reduction in their leakage, episodes of up to 70%, within just a few and a simple and a short months. I want you to think about that for a moment. With no and a complete and a total absence of any kind of a medication, of a surgery, or of an equipment, you could be able to cut your leakage by nearly in a half or even more, simply by the act of your having to practice these particular and these important exercises on a consistent and on a regular basis. That is the incredible and the profound power of our having to reconnect with our own and with our personal pelvic floor. And the very best and the most wonderful part of all of this is that you are able to do your Kegels at any and at every time, and at any and at every place. While you are brushing your teeth, while you are sitting at a red and a stoplight, or even while you are lying in your bed at night. They are completely and totally private, and no one around you will ever have to know that you are doing them. I would like to share a story with you from one of my own and my personal patients, a retired and a wonderful teacher who was in her late 60s. She had come to see me feeling so very embarrassed and so very frustrated because she was leaking whenever she was laughing or whenever she was coughing. She had had to start to avoid a variety of her social events, and she had even had to turn down a number of invitations from her beloved grandchildren because she was so very much afraid of her having to have an accident in a public place. Together, we had been able to work on the process of our having to build a daily and a regular and a consistent Kegel routine for her. At first, it had been so very hard for her to be able to remember to do them. So she had made the wise and the courageous decision to tie the exercises to her morning and her regular cup of a coffee. Each and every one of the sips that she had taken had been able to serve as a gentle and a loving reminder to her to be able to do a set of her exercises. Within just 3 and a simple and a short months, she had been able to notice a dramatic and a profound improvement in her condition. She had been able to attend a family and a beautiful wedding without her having to worry about the possibility of a leakage, and she had told me afterward, I am able to feel as if I have been able to get my life back. Her story is not at all a unique one. It is, in fact, exactly what is able to happen when women are able to make the courageous and the beautiful decision to commit to the act of their having to strengthen their own and their personal pelvic floor. So, as you can now so clearly and so easily see, the Kegels are the very and the essential and the important foundation, the very first and the most essential of all of the exercises for our pelvic health. They are able to target the muscles in a direct and in a precise way. They are able to retrain our bodies to be able to hold and to be able to release with a sense of a control. And they are able to give us a profound and a beautiful sense of a confidence in a variety of situations where we may have once felt so very anxious. But while it is certainly true that the Kegels are so very vital and so very important, they are not the whole and the entire story. In order for us to be able to build a lasting and a durable sense of a strength and of a resilience, we also need to be able to engage in a variety of exercises that are able to support and to be able to complement our pelvic floor. In the next part of this video, we will be exploring the second and the very essential and the very important of all of our exercises, that of a yoga. The practice of a yoga is not just able to strengthen our bodies, it is also able to improve our flexibility, to be able to reduce our stress, and to be able to teach us how to be able to connect with our pelvic floor in ways that are so wonderfully and so profoundly supportive of our health for so many years to come. The practice of a yoga is the second and the very essential and the very important of all of our exercises for every and a single and an individual woman who is over the age of 50 and who is wanting to be able to protect her pelvic health. And it is able to work in a variety of ways that are so perfectly and so beautifully complementary to the practice of the Kegels. Where the Kegels are able to work to strengthen the pelvic floor in a direct and in a precise way, the practice of a yoga is able to work to engage the larger and the more extensive network of the muscles that are able to surround and to be able to support it. Of our hips, of our core, and of our lower back. These particular and these important muscles are able to act like a scaffolding around our pelvic floor. When they are so very flexible and so very strong, they are able to work to reduce the strain that is being placed on our pelvic floor, a factor that is able to make it so much easier for those smaller and for those more delicate and for those more precious muscles to be able to function so very well. The practice of a yoga is also able to work to promote a deep and a restorative state of a breathing and of a mindfulness, both of which are able to work to calm our nervous system. A great many of the women that I have worked with over the years do not even realize that the experiences of a stress, of a tension, and of a shallow and of an inadequate breathing can be a factor that is able to worsen the experience of a leakage. By being able to reduce our stress, and by being able to teach us how to be able to move with a sense of an awareness, the practice of a yoga is able to work to create the very and the essential and the important conditions for our pelvic floor to be able to thrive. The various and the sundry scientific research is able to confirm the wonderful and the profound benefits of a yoga for our pelvic health. A scientific study that had been published in the esteemed Journal of Female Pelvic Medicine and Reconstructive Surgery had been able to find that the older women who had been able to practice a yoga had been able to see a significant and a tangible reduction in the number of their episodes of a urinary incontinence in comparison to those who had not. And another of the scientific studies that had been conducted by the esteemed University of California, San Francisco, had been able to show that a variety of yoga programs that had been so specially and so lovingly designed for the women who were over the age of 50 had been able to be a factor that was able to improve their bladder control, their core stability, and their overall and their comprehensive quality of a life. What is able to make the practice of a yoga so very effective is the fact that it does not just focus on the muscles. It is also able to work to address the mind-body connection. When you are able to practice a yoga, you are able to become so much more aware of a variety of subtle and of a variety of seemingly insignificant sensations in your body, including the activation and the relaxation of your pelvic floor. That particular and that important awareness is a factor that is able to be instrumental in helping you to be able to do your Kegels so much more effectively. And it is a factor that is able to give you a greater and a more profound sense of a control in your daily and your regular life. So, which of the yoga poses are so especially and so particularly helpful for our pelvic health? One of my very favorites is the bridge pose. In this particular and this important pose, you are able to lie on your back, with your knees bent and with your feet flat on the floor. As you are able to exhale, you are able to lift your hips in a gentle and in a graceful way towards the ceiling, while at the same time, you are also engaging your pelvic floor. This particular and this important pose is able to work to strengthen not only your pelvic floor, but also your glutes, your lower back, and your core. Another of the very beneficial and of the very effective of all of the poses is the child's pose, a pose in which you are able to kneel and to be able to fold forward, thereby allowing your hips to be able to relax. This particular and this important pose is able to be instrumental in helping you to be able to release a great deal of tension in your pelvic area, a factor that is able to teach your muscles that a state of a relaxation is just as important as a state of a contraction. A third and a very effective pose, which is so often and so commonly known as the garland pose, or as a supported squat, is able to work to build a great deal of a strength in your hips and in your pelvis, while at the same time, it is also encouraging a proper and a healthy alignment of your bladder and of your bowel. These particular and these important poses may be able to look so very simple, but when they are being practiced on a consistent and on a regular basis, they are able to work to retrain your body in order to be able to support your pelvic organs in a much more effective and in a much more efficient way. If you have never had the opportunity to try yoga before, you might be so very worried that you are not flexible enough or that the poses will be so very difficult for you. But the practice of a yoga is not about the act of our having to twist ourselves into a variety of complex and of a variety of intimidating shapes. It is about the act of our having to meet our bodies where they are today. I have had a variety of patients in their 70s and in their 80s who have been able to begin their yoga journey with just a few and a simple and a short minutes of a chair-supported yoga. One of the women that I have worked with over the years had told me that she was so very nervous at first, as she was so very afraid that she would be able to look so very silly. But after just a few and a simple and a short weeks, she had been able to notice that she was able to bend so much more easily in order to be able to pick up her groceries, and that she was able to stand so much more confidently from her chair. She had also been able to notice a fewer number of leaks when she was coughing. She had said to me, "I did not just strengthen my body, I had gained back my independence." That is the wonderful and the inherent beauty of a yoga. It is able to adapt to you, and not the other way around. Another of the very powerful and of the very significant of all of the aspects of a yoga is the way in which it is able to work to reduce our stress. The experience of a stress is able to have a very direct and a very significant impact on the function of our bladder. When you are feeling so very anxious, your body is able to release a variety of hormones that are able to make your bladder so much more irritable. You may be able to feel as if you have to rush to the bathroom, even when it is not yet full. The focus of a yoga on a deep and a restorative breathing, on a slow and a gentle movement, and on a state of a presence is able to be instrumental in helping you to be able to calm your nervous system, a factor that is able to work to reduce that particular and that important sense of an urgency. You can think of it as being like the act of our having to oil a hinge on a squeaky and a noisy door. Once the stress is able to melt away, your muscles are able to move so much more smoothly and to be able to respond so much more naturally. This particular and this important mind-body connection is the very reason why the practice of a yoga is so much more than just a simple and an insignificant stretching. It is, in fact, a holistic and a comprehensive practice that is able to work to support our entire and our comprehensive well-being. The very best and the most wonderful part of all of this is that the practice of a yoga does not have to require any kind of a long and a complicated and a restrictive routine. Just 10 and a simple and a short minutes a day can be a factor that is able to bring about some very real and some very tangible benefits. You can choose to start with just 1 or 2 and a simple and a gentle and a restorative poses, or even with a variety of simple and of a variety of calming breathing exercises while you are being seated in a chair. The consistency of your practice is able to matter so much more than the intensity of it. The act of our having to pair the practice of a yoga with our Kegel routine is able to create a powerful and an effective combination. The Kegels are able to work to strengthen the hidden and the essential and the important hammock of our pelvic floor, while the practice of a yoga is able to work to strengthen the outer and the supportive support and to be able to calm our minds. Together, they are able to work to create a beautiful and a profound sense of a balance, of a strength and of a confidence. I can once remember having to work with a woman who was in her early 60s and who had made the decision to join a gentle and a restorative yoga class at her local and her community center. At first, she had had to struggle to be able to hold the poses, and she had so often had to need a chair for a support. But she had been able to stick with it, as she had been able to practice it 2 times a week. After just 6 and a simple and a short months, she had not only been able to report a fewer number of leaks, but she had also been able to feel so much steadier on her feet, so much less anxious, and she had even been able to sleep so much better. She had told me that the practice of a yoga had been able to give her so much more than she had ever expected. It had been able to make her feel so very whole once again. Stories like the one of hers are able to serve as a powerful and a poignant reminder to all of us that it is never and completely too late for us to be able to begin, and that a progress is so very much possible at any and at every age. So, as you can now so clearly and so easily see, the practice of a yoga is a gentle but a powerful and an effective tool for our pelvic health. It is able to work to strengthen the muscles that are so wonderfully and so profoundly supportive of our pelvic floor, to be able to improve our flexibility, to be able to reduce our stress, and to be able to reconnect us to our own and to our personal bodies. When it is combined with the practice of the Kegels, it is able to form the second and the very essential and the very important pillar of a comprehensive and a holistic pelvic health plan. In the next part of this video, we will be moving on to the third and the very essential and the very important of all of our exercises, that of a core and of a stability training, which is able to work to tie everything all together, as it is able to be instrumental in giving our pelvic floor the very and the essential and the important support that it so deeply and so completely needs for a lifelong and a durable sense of a strength and of a confidence. The third and the very essential and the very important of all of our exercises that every and a single and an individual woman who is over the age of 50 should be able to practice for her pelvic health is a core and of a stability training. If the Kegels are the direct and the precise strengthening of our pelvic floor, and if the practice of a yoga is the supportive and the calming partner, then the core exercises are the very and the essential and the important framework that is able to hold everything all together. You can think of your pelvic floor as being the very and the essential and the important floor of a sturdy and a robust box. The abdominal muscles are able to form the front of the box. The back muscles are able to form the rear of the box. The hips are able to provide the sides of the box, and the diaphragm is able to rest on the top of the box. When all of these particular and these important structures are so very strong and so very coordinated, our pelvic floor is able to be so very much supported, just like a well and a beautifully built foundation. But when they are so very weak, our pelvic floor is so often left to have to do all of the work all on its own, and that is when a variety of leakage and of a variety of discomfort can so often begin to set in. One of the most effective and the most efficient of all of the core exercises is the pelvic tilt. It is a very simple and a very gentle and a very safe exercise for all of the women of all of the ages. You are able to lie on your back with your knees bent and with your feet flat on the floor. As you are able to exhale, you are able to gently and subtly and internally tighten your abdominal muscles, to be able to press your lower back into the floor, and to be able to lift your pelvic floor as if you were trying to be able to stop the flow of your urine. You should be able to hold this particular and this important position for a few and a simple and a short seconds, and then you will be able to release it. What may be able to look like a small and a seemingly insignificant movement is actually a factor that is able to teach your pelvic floor and your abdominal muscles to be able to work together. This particular and this important coordination is so very essential and so very important in our everyday and our regular lives. When you are able to lift a grocery bag, to be able to bend down to be able to tie your shoes, or to be able to rise from a chair, your pelvic floor and your core are so very much in need of being able to act as a team. Another of the very excellent and of the very effective of all of the exercises is the modified plank. Unlike the traditional and the conventional plank, which can so often be so very strenuous for some of the women that I have worked with over the years, the modified and the gentle version of the plank is one that is so easily and so conveniently done with your knees on the floor and with your forearms being able to support you. As you are able to hold this particular and this important position, you should be able to gently and subtly and internally draw your belly button towards your spine and to be able to lift your pelvic floor. The modified and the gentle plank is not only able to work to strengthen your abdominals, but it is also able to work to engage your shoulders, your hips, and your back. Over the course of time, this particular and this important stability is able to work to reduce the pressure that is being placed on your bladder, and that is able to be instrumental in helping you to be able to prevent a variety of unexpected and of a variety of unwanted leaks during a variety of sudden and of a variety of unexpected movements, like a sneeze or a standing up so very quickly. According to the esteemed American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, a COG, a variety of core and of a variety of stabilization exercises, like the plank, are so very safe, so very effective, and so very particularly and so very especially important for the older women to be able to maintain their own and their personal sense of their independence and to be able to reduce their risk of a falls. A variety of balance exercises are also able to deserve a place in your pelvic health routine. A variety of moves, such as a standing on one leg while you are being able to hold onto a chair for a support, or a performing a variety of gentle and of a variety of restorative side leg lifts are both able to be a factor that is able to be instrumental in helping you to be able to strengthen your hips and to be able to improve your sense of your stability. Why is this so very much able to matter for your pelvic floor? It is because a good and a stable sense of a balance is able to work to reduce your risk of a falls, a risk that is so often able to increase as we are able to age. Having a strong and a stable core is able to mean that your pelvic floor is so much less strained during your daily and your regular activities, and that your body is able to work so much more efficiently as a whole. I can once remember having a patient who was in her late 60s and who had told me that she was so constantly and so consistently feeling so very wobbly when she was walking. We had been able to incorporate a variety of core and of a variety of balance exercises into her plan. And within just a few and a simple and a short months, she had not only been able to feel so much more secure on her feet, but she had also been able to notice that her leakage had been able to improve. She had smiled and she had told me, "I am able to stand so much taller now, and I am able to feel so much stronger, both on the inside and on the out." It is so very important for me to be able to note that not all of the core exercises are so very beneficial for our pelvic health. The traditional and the conventional sit-ups or the crunches can actually be a factor that is able to put a downward and a harmful pressure on our pelvic floor. A factor that can so often and so easily be a factor that is able to worsen a state of a leakage or of a prolapse. Instead, it is so very important for us to be able to focus on a variety of gentle and of a variety of controlled movements, like the pelvic tilt, the modified and the gentle plank, and a variety of bird, dog exercises, a particular and an important exercise in which you are able to extend your opposite and your contralateral arm and your opposite and your contralateral leg while you are being on all of your fours. These particular and these important movements are able to work to build a great deal of a strength without you having to strain any of the delicate and the precious structures of your body. You can think of it as being like the act of our having to tune an orchestra. When all of the instruments are able to play together in a beautiful and a profound harmony, the music is able to flow so very beautifully. Your core and your pelvic floor are able to function in the very same and in the very exact way. When they are so very well and so very beautifully coordinated, your body is able to move with a sense of an ease and of a confidence. The wonderful and the inherent beauty of a core training is that it does not just work to protect our pelvic floor, it is also able to work to benefit our entire and our comprehensive lives. Having a strong and a robust core is able to work to improve our posture, to be able to reduce our back pain, and to be able to make our everyday and our regular activities so much easier. The acts of our having to carry our groceries, of our having to do some gardening, or even of our having to dance with our beloved grandchildren are all able to become so much more enjoyable when our core and our pelvic floor are able to work so very well and so very beautifully together. And the very best and the most wonderful part of all of this is that you do not have to spend so many hours of your time in order to be able to exercise. Just a few and a simple and a short and a focused minutes, a several and a few and a simple and a short times a week can be a factor that is able to yield some very noticeable and some very tangible improvements in your condition. So, we have now had the wonderful and the profound opportunity to be able to cover all of the three of the most essential and the most important of all of our exercises of the Kegels, to be able to directly and precisely strengthen our pelvic floor of the yoga, to be able to support and to be able to calm the surrounding muscles and of our minds and of the core training, to be able to provide the very and the essential and the important stability that is able to tie it all together. Each and every one of these particular and these important exercises is so very powerful on its own, but when they are all taken together, they are able to form a comprehensive and a holistic approach to our pelvic health that is able to work to transform our daily and our regular lives. In the next part of our series together, we will be reflecting on how we can be able to bring all of these particular and these important practices into our routine in some very simple and in some very sustainable ways. And I will be inviting you to be able to share your own and your personal experiences, because your own and your personal journey could be the very thing that is able to inspire another woman to be able to take her very first and her very earliest step towards a state of a strength and of a confidence. When we are able to talk about a variety of exercises like the Kegels, the yoga, and the core training, it is so very easy for us to be able to feel so very motivated in the moment. But then we are so often left to wonder, how will I ever be able to actually and effectively fit all of this into my day? The profound and the beautiful truth of the matter is that the health of our pelvis does not have to require so many hours of our time at the gym or any kind of a complicated and an expensive and an intimidating equipment. It is all about the act of our having to build some small and some seemingly insignificant habits that are able to blend into our routine in such a natural and a beautiful way that they are soon able to feel as automatic and as natural as the act of our having to brush our teeth. These particular and these important exercises are so very powerful, but their true and their profound effectiveness is able to come from a sense of a consistency. And a sense of a consistency is so very much possible when you are able to make them a natural and a beautiful part of the very rhythm of your life. The Kegels, for example, are able to be done almost anywhere. Some of my patients are able to link them to a variety of everyday and of a variety of regular cues. One of the women that I have worked with over the years is able to squeeze her pelvic floor muscles during each and every one of the stoplights that she is able to encounter when she is driving. And another of the women that I have worked with over the years is able to do a set of her Kegels while she is waiting for her coffee to be able to brew in the morning. These small and these seemingly insignificant anchors are able to work to turn the Kegels into a habit rather than a chore. And because they are able to require no and a complete and a total absence of any kind of a movement that anyone else is able to see, you are able to practice them while you are sitting in a meeting, while you are standing in a line at the grocery store, or even while you are watching television in the evening. Over the course of time, these small and these seemingly insignificant moments are able to add up to a stronger and a more robust pelvic floor, and to a very real and a very tangible reduction in the incidence of a leakage. The practice of a yoga is also able to fit so very beautifully into our daily and our regular lives as well. You do not need to be able to have an hour-long and a complicated and a restrictive class, or a variety of complicated and of a variety of intimidating postures in order to be able to see some wonderful and some profound benefits. Just 5 or 10 and a simple and a short minutes in the morning can be a factor that is able to stretch your hips, to be able to calm your nervous system, and to be able to engage your pelvic muscles. Some of the women that I have worked with over the years are able to prefer an evening and a relaxing routine, as they are able to use the practice of a yoga as a way of being able to relax before they go to bed at night. What is able to matter the most is the act of our having to find a time that is able to feel so very doable and so very enjoyable for us. A few and a simple and a gentle and a restorative poses, like the bridge pose, the child's pose, or even just a simple and a deep and a restorative breathing, can be a factor that is able to reset our bodies and our minds. You can think of it as being like the act of our having to give ourselves a moment of a peace, while at the same time, we are also working to protect our own and our personal health. The practice of a core and of a stability training can also be able to slip so very easily into our routine. The pelvic tilt, for example, is able to be done before you are even able to get out of your bed. The modified and the gentle plank is able to fit into a break during your day, even if it is only for a period of a 20 and a simple and a short seconds at a time. A variety of balance exercises, such as a standing on one leg while you are being able to hold onto a chair, can be able to be practiced while you are talking on the phone or while you are waiting for the microwave. The secret is not to be able to wait for a perfect and an ideal time to be able to exercise, but to be able to sprinkle these particular and these important movements into the day that you are already having. A great many of the women that I have worked with over the years will so often feel so very overwhelmed at first, as they are so often thinking that they have to do everything in a perfect and in an ideal way. But the health of our pelvis is not about a perfection, it is about a progress. I can once remember having to work with a woman who had to admit to me that she was so often forgetting her exercises. We had made the decision that she would be able to start with just 5 and a simple and a short Kegels a day and nothing more. It had felt so very small, but it had been so very manageable for her. Over the course of the weeks, she had been able to build a great deal of a confidence, as she had been able to add a yoga twice a week and a variety of core exercises, a few and a simple and a short times in the evening. 6 months later, she had been able to realize that she had not had a single and an individual leakage accident in a period of a several and a long weeks. She had laughed and she had told me. It did not feel like much at the time, but as I now look back, I am able to see just how much all of those little and those seemingly insignificant steps had been able to add up. Another of the very important and of the very critical of all of the pieces of the puzzle is a sense of a self-compassion. All too often, the women that I have worked with over the years will so often blame themselves for their leakage, as they are so often thinking that they have done something wrong. But the experience of a leakage is not in any way your fault. It is, in fact, simply and completely your body's way of being able to ask for some of your attention and of your care. The act of our having to approach our exercises with a sense of a kindness, rather than with a sense of a criticism, is a factor that is able to make the journey so much more sustainable for us. Instead of our having to say, I have to do this, we can try thinking, I get to do this for my own, and for my personal health, and for my own, and for my personal future. This particular and this important shift in our mindset is able to work to turn the health of our pelvis from being a burden into being an empowering and a beautiful act of self-care. I would be so very happy for you to be able to pause for a moment and to be able to reflect on which of these three and of these important and of these significant exercises is able to feel the most doable for you right now. Maybe it is the act of your having to start with a few and a simple and a short Kegels in the morning, or of your having to try one and a single and an individual yoga pose in the evening, or of your having to practice a pelvic tilt before you are able to get out of your bed. There is no and a complete and a total absence of any kind of a wrong and an improper answer. The key and the most important and the most critical of all of the things is for you to be able to simply and completely begin, because each and every one of the efforts that you are able to make is able to count. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Your own and your personal story might just be the very thing that another woman is so very much in need of being able to hear in order to be able to take her very first and her very earliest step towards a state of a strength and of a confidence. In our final and our last part together, we will be able to bring all of this all together into a clear and a comprehensive roadmap, as we will be summarizing the three of the very best and the most optimal of all of the exercises and all of the various and of the sundry lifestyle shifts that are able to support them. I will be leaving you with a sense of an encouragement to be able to carry forward so that you will be able to know that the health of your pelvis is not behind you, but that it is still so very much within your reach. We have now had the wonderful and the profound opportunity to be able to travel together through the three of the very best and the most optimal of all of the exercises that every and a single and an individual woman who is over the age of 50 should be able to do in order to be able to protect and to be able to strengthen her pelvic health, of the Kegels, of the yoga, and of the core and of the stability training. Each and every one of these particular and these important exercises is able to have its own and its unique and its special role. The Kegels are able to directly and precisely target the hammock of the muscles that are so wonderfully and so profoundly supportive of your bladder and of your bowel, a factor that is able to be instrumental in helping you to be able to regain your control and to be able to reduce your leakage. The practice of a yoga is able to work to expand the benefits by being able to build your flexibility, by being able to strengthen your surrounding muscles, and by being able to calm the stress that can so often be a factor that is able to worsen your bladder urgency. And the practice of a core training is able to work to tie it all together, as it is able to work to create a stable and a reliable framework that is able to support your pelvic floor in every and a single and an individual movement that you are able to make throughout your day. Together, they are able to form a holistic and a comprehensive routine that does not just work to prevent a variety of problems, but that is also able to work to actively and effectively restore your confidence and your freedom. The true and the profound power of these particular and these important exercises is not just a physical one, it is also an emotional one as well. The health of our pelvis is so very deeply and so very inextricably tied to our quality of a life. When you are no longer having to worry about the possibility of a leaking during a laugh or of a sneeze, you are able to feel so much lighter, so much freer, and so much more like yourself. When your body is able to feel so very strong and so very steady, your mind is able to feel so very much at an ease. A great many of my patients have told me that the act of their having to strengthen their pelvic floor has been able to give them so much more than just a control over their bladder. It has been able to give them their own and their personal sense of their independence back. One of the women that I have worked with over the years, who was in her 70s, had said to me after a period of several and a long months of a practice, "I am able to feel as if I am standing so much taller, not just on a physical level, but in every and a single and an individual part of my life. That is the very kind of a transformation that I so very much want for you." It is also so very important for us to be able to remember that you do not have to do everything in a perfect and in an ideal way in order to be able to see some results. Some of the days, you might only be able to manage a few and a simple and a short kegels. And on some of the other days, you might be able to enjoy a short and a simple and a restorative yoga flow or a round of a pelvic tilts. Each and every one of the small and the seemingly insignificant steps is able to add up. The health of our pelvis is like the act of our having to plant a beautiful and a precious garden. You may not be able to notice any kind of a growth right away, but with a steady and a consistent sense of your care, a new and a beautiful sense of a strength is able to bloom. The key and the most important and the most critical of all of the factors is a sense of a consistency and of a compassion for yourself. There is no and a complete and a total absence of any kind of a finish line. There is just a gradual and a progressive building of a resilience that is able to pay off for you day by day. The wonderful and the profound benefits are able to extend so very far beyond the prevention of a leakage. Having a strong and a robust pelvic health is able to work to improve our posture, to be able to reduce our back pain, and to be able to support our sexual intimacy by being able to keep our tissues so very strong and so very responsive. It is also able to work to enhance our balance and our stability, a factor that is able to work to reduce our risk of falls as we are able to age. These are not small, and they are not seemingly insignificant things. They are, in fact, the very and the essential and the important foundation of our having to live an active and a fulfilling and a beautiful life after the ages of a 50, of a 60, and beyond. By being able to practice these particular and these important exercises, you are making a profound and a powerful investment, not just in your pelvic floor, but also in your own and in your personal future of your independence and of your joy. As women, we are so often so very quick to be able to care for others, while at the same time, we are placing ourselves at the very bottom of the list. But our health is able to matter. The act of our having to take some time to be able to practice our kegels, to be able to roll out our yoga mat, or to be able to hold a gentle and a restorative plank is not in any way a selfish one. It is, in fact, an act of a self-respect. You are making the conscious and the intentional decision to be able to honor your own and your personal body and to be able to give yourself the strength to be able to keep on doing the very things that you so very much love. And that particular and that important choice is able to ripple outwards, as it is able to inspire the women who are all around you, of your daughters, of your granddaughters, of your sisters, and of your friends, to be able to care for themselves as well. So, as we now bring our time together to a close, I would like to leave you with this one an important reflection. The health of your pelvis is not behind you. It is, in fact, within your reach. No matter what your age may be, your body is completely and totally capable of a change. With the kegels, with the yoga, and with the core exercises, you are able to build a great deal of a strength from the inside and out, and you are able to move into the many and the wonderful years that lie ahead of you with a sense of a confidence. Thank you so very much for having shared this valuable and this important time with me. If this particular and this important video has been a helpful and an important one for you, I would be so very grateful if you would please leave a comment with your own and your personal experiences or with your own and your personal questions. I would be so very happy to be able to hear your story. Please share this particular and this important video with a friend or with a loved one who may also be struggling with a sense of a leakage or of a pelvic discomfort. And if you have not yet done so, I would be so very grateful if you would please subscribe to Elderwear Wellness for some more of a compassionate and of an evidence-based guidance each and every week. Together, we are able to create a beautiful and a supportive community of women who are able to feel so very strong, so very supported, and so very confident at every and a single and an individual stage of their lives. Please remember, every and a single and an individual laugh, every and a single and an individual step, and every and a single and an individual hug should be able to be enjoyed without any kind of a worry. By being able to care for your pelvic floor, you are giving yourself the precious and the beautiful gift of a freedom, and you so deeply and so completely deserve nothing less than that.